Hello, it's Nigel from B2B Whiteboard. I'd like to talk about business relationships, and what I'm doing here, I'm using marriage metaphors to explain business relationships. The marriage metaphor, it arose from these consultative projects that were done in 1989 to 1990. And they were done with manufacturers selling B2B products. And interviews were conducted with senior consultants, and what they noticed was there was a pattern in the way business-to-business relationships ended. So they were looking at termination of relationships. What they found through their interviews, they interviewed over 300 customers, and they found that 80% of customers who stop doing business with a supplier do so not because of cost or technical competence, but rather because of the way the customer feels treated. And this is very, very important, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand how we actually maintain or retain relationships in business-to-business marketing, and so we need to be conscious of the different states that relationships might go through. So if we look at the metaphors to describe these different states of marriage that could equally apply to business relationships, the first one I'm looking at here is what they call the one-night stand theory. This is when manufacturers and customers enter into one-to-one relationships, and they don't last very long. There's lack of commitment and involvement, little loyalty, and these are very common when it comes to retail suppliers who are looking for one-off deals. They're not looking at a long-term relationship. The courtship theory, this is the early stages of building a manufacturer-customer relationship. It's about getting to know each other, it's building trust and commitment. And again, when you enter into a relationship, it requires investment, and we shouldn't take it lightly. We need to be very conscious of the investments we need to make in the relationship. The marriage theory is when the manufacturer and the customer are ready for commitment, and there's a good fit between manufacturers and customers' strengths and weaknesses. And the marriage theory, it has the attributes of trust and good communication and commitment. And so in business-to-business marketing, we're trying to actually apply marriage theory to our relationships. But as the relationship continues, we have what they call retention theory in the marriage, where the manufacturer and the customer have shared goals, and to retain the relationship over time, you need to be adapted to each other's needs, and you need that high level of trust and commitment between the two parties. And with retention theory, as it applies to business relationships and to marriage, what we find is that if there's good communication exchange between both parties and they're able to resolve indifferences or conflicts that arise, then there's a better chance of the relationship continuing, which is very, very important. The last theory is the separation theory. This is when the manufacturer and the customer have infrequent communication exchange, which is a big cause of separation in business relationships. You have the blame game. It's your fault, not mine. You have these conflicts, which can be real or imaginary conflicts, that create separation in the relationship, and these are very very common. And it's the imaginary conflicts that we need to be aware of, where one party imagines that the other party is doing them harm. Also, you might have lack of trust and commitment to resolve conflicts, and when you have lack of trust and commitment, then that is not a very good situation. So what we're really saying here really is just to wrap up is that these metaphors of marriage equally apply to business relationships, and what we want to try and do where possible is to retain those relationships. And what we need to do is to be conscious of the fact that we need to have good, frequent communication. We need to voice our concerns in the relationship and resolve any conflicts. So that's goodbye from me, and we'll catch up later.